Hey everyone, this is Nick from NXT Plants. Today I'm going to be going over some plants I've picked up since starting the YouTube and doing my last houseplant tour. I think this is one sort of big unboxing, everything all together. I think to start with, I'm going to go with the import I did. First plant I'm going to talk about from the import is this SP Morona. It's a pendant Anthurium that gets long, and the reason I ordered it, first of all, it was very cheap for the seedling, and there's that one picture going around on Instagram where of a very large SP Morona. It has these really ripply edges, and I think that plant looks quite appealing. Not all of the SP Morona I've seen have had that, and also when you're importing, you're not like really sure on the species. However, I do like the pendant Anthurium. I've been meaning to add a few more, and this one has good potential because I'm a fan of the texture. Yeah, right now it doesn't really look very different from any other pendant Anthurium. It was a super easy one, really didn't have very much root damage at all coming in, and I kind of just potted it up as it was, and it's continued to grow roots really well. Definitely very easy, and it's sized beautifully in the little time I've had it. I think it's put out 2 or 3 leaves in my care. Next one from that same import I'm going to talk about is this Lapoenum. It's been a little bit more of a struggle for me. I don't think the plant is particularly hard. It lost its growth point, but it's quickly put out another one, so it should be bouncing back in any time now. I'm really excited for this one, mostly to make hybrids with it. I think it could be fun to combine the texture and the shape that this plant gets. So I should hold it up for you. To camera. So yeah, I think this one will make really pretty hybrids, especially with velvety things. The next up from this import is this Anthurium splendidum. I think I might have briefly shown this in the bins, but I didn't really want to talk about it. I'm going to insert pictures of the other one I got. I planted it into the cabinet behind me, so it really isn't accessible to show you guys. That one is doing a lot better. It's put out a new leaf, very happy. Should expect that one to flower pretty soon. This one, it's definitely like bouncing back. There's, fresh green growth around the growth point, and everything looks happy and healthy below the surface. I think it's taking a little bit of time since it did mostly lose its leaves, and that happened because a few days after receiving it, it was left overnight in a bin on a heat mat, and splendidum in general do not do well with heat, and especially not being on a heat mat. It just cooked them. They look like wilted spinach, and thankfully we were able to rehydrate them at least partially, and they didn't die. I'm very thankful for that, so I'm really just happy that both of the splendidum are alive and showing signs of new growth now. And again, this is another one I got for making hybrids with. One thing I've noticed about splendidum hybrids is they tend to be incredibly splendidum heavy. Everything sort of just looks like a splendidum when you mix it with it. I think my favorite one though is probably the queen splendidum, just because it looks like a long splendidum. The reason I want it for hybrids specifically is to do back crosses. So that'd be an example would be like splendidum, ace of spades. So you breed it back to the one you want to bring more traits out of. Yeah, I think that'd be fun to do with this plant. Sort of like some people have done with the luxuriance hybrids. Okay, another one from this import is this Anthurium debilis, or debil. It's another textured Anthurium that I got for making hybrids, surprise, surprise. I think it crosses beautifully with the velvet Anthurium, and you can get some really nice, crinkly, sort of sub-velvet, dark hybrids out of it, and so that's why I got it. And it's another one that hasn't been too hard at all. I chopped off the import leaves, so this is the first leaf I got in my care. And then this is an emergent leaf right now. Yeah, I'd say it wasn't too difficult. I removed probably almost all the roots. I maybe left it with a couple inches of root total, and then I potted it up, and it's proceeded to root happily from the chunk. So I'd say not too hard. Again, just kept it in a bin, and it bounced right back. Quite a bit smaller, but that's to be expected when a plant loses its root system. This one is going to make some really nice hybrids, hopefully. I think right off the bat, I'm thinking something dark and round, so. Next up, this is really a purpose for the entire purpose for the order is getting this forgetti. The pictures I looked at, okay, let me explain. I I know me and everyone else were out here looking for a dark form forgetii, so something that's really dark with no veins. On the website when I was purchasing it, it didn't look like it had veins. They were a lot more muted. They've since come in pretty dramatically. I'm not too upset. I had another forgetii that also gained its veins, and I ended up getting rid of it. So I don't know if this one will be too long for this world, and in my collection that is. I'm not going to kill it, of course. But I'm going to try to make something out of it at least before. And I'm going to give it a few more leaves to make sure. But yeah, I was hoping for one that didn't really have any of the silvering. You know, I can't remember which leaf I saw on the website that sold it to me. I think something like this, where there's a little bit less veining. But you know, I'm overall very happy. And again, this one came in such great shape, and it's been so vigorous ever since. So it's really been a great plant. Didn't really flinch at all at being an import. A lot of its roots were able to stay around and continue branching and growing once I potted it up into pond, and it's done the rehab in the tent, no problem. Oh yeah, and it was putting out a flower when I got it, and it's now flowered again in my care. So I'm going to give it a few tries. I'm also kind of tempted to self it and see if I can't get one with fewer veins out of a selfing, but I'm not sure yet. So either way, I'm excited to do some hybrids with it. I think this is the last one from the import. This is actually the leaf it came with. This is an Anthurium regal. Yeah, I removed most of its roots, potted it up. This nice pot with a big collar. I'm sure you can see the roots. Yeah, I think I can see the pink. See those pink roots growing. So it's started to root out really nicely. I put the collar on because the chonk was, it's all the way to the bottom of the pot and then up that high. And I wanted to give the fresh new growth the substrate, because that's the growth that I find is most likely to develop new roots. So it's best to have them be in an environment where the roots are going to be able to grow. Yeah, I got this nice big regal. Very happy with the color of it, and it's nice, good size. It should be flowering for me soon once it gets settled back in and rooted. Pretty happy with it. I wish I had a leaf grown in my care to show off, but that hasn't happened yet. I think the most remarkable thing about this plant is how thick, pink, and hairy the roots are. They're quite nice. Oh, and my plans with the regal. This plant is going to get way too big to keep in a tent shortly. I'm making some plans for a big plant area, either in one of the tents or out. My queens are getting quickly into a similar situation. So long term, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I would like to at least eke out a few inflows, at least for the pollen, before it gets too big, and then I think it might have to be an out of the tent plant, maybe even on the shelf behind me long term. I was thinking of hanging a grow light so I could put some of the hardier Anthurium out here. Yeah, I think the regal would be a good candidate for that. Here's an Anthurium voodoo child. It's a hybrid of regal and dresselrye, created by J. Vanini. Yeah, it's got beautiful dark foliage, kind of gets these sort of narrow leaves with ruffles on the edges. Very minimally veined, doesn't really gain anything like the regal's veins. Right now I've got it growing in a mix of tree fern, perlite, and pumice. It is a bit of a notorious plant, specifically known to be difficult. I've been keeping it in a bin. In my care so far, it's only failed one leaf before it managed to put out this one, and I'm now getting the second leaf in my care. Yeah, like I said, it can be a little bit finicky. I find its roots are pretty sensitive, so it'll be a nerve-wracking day when I have to repot it out of this little pot. Yeah, here's the Anthurium voodoo child. Oh, I should say I got this plant as a replacement plant because I rotted my first one. Oh, something interesting about the voodoo child that's a little bit different from these other plants. It's actually, I believe, one of the ones that's pretty sterile. I've never heard of a hybrid or it successfully taking. And I know the inflows it produces are generally malformed. So it'll be fun to see that one day. But I'm not expecting to make any hybrids with this plant. I think I want to talk about this Anthurium I've. I got this from my friend Kate. It's a very cute Bessie I've. It's pretty different from my other Bessie I've. I think my main Bessie I've is like probably an entirely different species from these other Bessie I'ves that you more commonly see, the sort of rounded ones with the reddish petioles. My other Bessie I've is, like, I'd say the veins are thicker on it, and the foliage is like inky black. It's got a wider sinus with bigger lobes. And again, the petioles are all green, the peduncles all green, it's green spathe, green spadix, and again, the shape and the veins and everything about it's very different. And it's not a hybrid. So I mean, the Bessie I've, there's a few different things that trade under that name, and I'm pretty sure this is different from my other Bessie I've. And the reason I got this one is to make hybrids with. Bessie I've takes more like 8 months to make seeds, so it was useful to have potentially a second one to be mother plants, because Bessie I've hybrids are really pretty, whether they're from either one, since Bessie I've has really good traits and generally imparts nice dark foliage onto its offspring. Yeah, so I got this one because it's a little bit rounder, a little bit more petite. It stays a little bit smaller, and that I think will be nice for crossing with the smaller, rounder, less lobe species. I think the other Bessie I've more complements a pap. This kind of Bessie I've more complements something like a dress or a Carla. Yeah. Oh, this leaf has not hardened down. That's why it's a lighter color. Okay, I think next I'm going to talk about this. This is an Anthurium andrianum. It's just a very common Anthurium. I got it at my local garden center, and I noticed that in the tray this one had like almost a negative sinus. So it wasn't this leaf. These leaves are all grown. I was looking at these other smaller leaves, and it looked like it didn't have the lobes that the other ones had, even at this size. So I thought it would be interesting to grow. Also, it's so small in its flowering, so I was curious if it would stay small enough to stay inside a terrarium. I doubt it, since when I got home and I looked a little bit more closely, I think it's just a normal andrianum. I know they can use chemicals to induce the flowering at the smaller size, but I'm not sure if that's what's going on here. Just thought it was cute, and it can hybridize with some of the other Anthurium I grow. So I was thinking, if it does truly keep it sort of flat or like no lobes, I might give it a try, pollinating it or using its pollen on other things with either a wide sinus or a flat sinus to see if I can't amplify that trait while bringing in some velvet. Next up, I want to talk about this Anthurium carlablackiae. This is Carla RA6 x RA5. I am a big fan of the RA5 hybrids. It was definitely my favorite of the RA Carla, and it's unfortunately like gone. All of the pieces of it have died, so it feels like pretty special to have, you know, seedlings from some of its last batches, and you know, some of the last bits of its genetics. So if you ever wanted to try and do anything or bring back the traits, you know, you got to get these guys, because there's no more Carla 5 hybrids or Carla 5 out there. So yeah, I'm hoping to breed this with the 5x10 and get some interesting things. I'm not expecting to be able to make you know, the spider Carla again, but I think it has just such exemplary genetics, because, you know, this beautiful dark foliage. So I know it'll go really nicely with the other Carla. Yeah. So this is now officially my second Carla. I think I have started to fall down the Carla rabbit hole. I didn't get it, and then I got my first Carla, and now I sort of get it. Now I sort of get it. They're lovely, and they stay so small, and they berry fast. It's just like a pretty lovely all-around experience. They grow great, and they just put out this beautiful dark foliage. And I like how flat this one and my other Carla are. Yeah, this is the first leaf in my care. These are the previous leaves. I'd remove them, but too much of the leaf area. So yeah, this guy should be exciting to keep growing it and seeing how it develops with time. Next up is this Ace of Spades. It's a Tazula Dark Form. I want to say I've shown it on the channel. I can't remember because there's a couple of videos I've filmed. This one was potentially in it and I didn't upload. But I want to say I haven't put this on. Whatever. Yeah, this is a Tazula Ace of Spades Dark Form. I have another of the Tazula Ace of Spades Dark Form. I got this one locally. These leaves have both come out in my care. Here's the last of the previous leaves, I've otherwise removed them. I got this one as a rehab. Specifically, I was curious to see how quickly it would darken up while still receiving super high light. So darkening up just from the fertilizer, and as you can see, like it's already started to get that really dark inky black that the Ace of Spades can get. And otherwise, like I would like to, have two to breed with each other to try and bring out even better ace features, because I think there's still, there's always something you can bring out. You can always breed for a personal trait, like whether that's you want more red veins, tighter lobes, wider lobes, whatever it is you want to breed for, that's something you can do, and it's great to start with two plants with incredible genetics. And this is, another Ace of Spades, but it's just beautiful. I know a lot of people talked about, a lot of people have issues with their Ace of Spades, specifically ace pox. I want to say this plant did have some signs of it on its older leaves before I began caring for it. I think a lot of ace pox can be handled by giving your plant a complete feed and making sure the plant has the elements or the nutrients necessary to mount a proper immune response. And in my experience, a happy ace, neither of my aces have ace pox, even on very old leaves. And I chalk a lot of that up to specifically the feed. It could also be the consistent moisture from a self-watering not giving... Let me backtrack. One of the places where leaves will take damage if there's inconsistencies in the watering or the water quality is the edges. And that's normally where ace pox sets in. So I think a lot of what ace pox is just sort of an opportunistic fungal infection caused by the plant taking some sort of cell damage from inconsistent watering and then not having the necessary nutrition to mount a sufficient immune response against that infection. So I think if you can prevent the initial damage and you feed the plant properly, silica is another thing that would help prevent sort of that the instances of damage around the edge where the fungal infection can set in. I think you'll go a long way to warding off or even outright getting rid of ace pox on your ace. Next up, we've got the NSE port. This is an emergent leaf. So this is the first leaf I'm getting in my care. The plant has been rooting out beautifully. I've got it in my DIY pond. I think that's what almost all of these were in, except the splendidum is actually in my my aeroid mix, just because I didn't want to. No, I do remember. I put it in there because the one I planted in the cabinet is in a similar sort of medium, and it's been doing really well. So when it came time to pot that one up, I put it in the same. Okay. As I was saying, here we've got an MSC port. So this is a NovDF hybrid. I don't believe the hybrid is known. Other than it is a NovDF hybrid. It has been wonderful to grow, very quick, rooted out beautifully in the pond mix, and the surface of the pot is just covered in these gorgeous fuzzy roots. That's what I've been looking at. Yeah, it's this beautiful, narrow, nice and very severe pointy lobes. So yeah, this is the NSE port. Very excited to grow this. I think it is wonderful to use in hybrids. All the flat sinus plants, I think, make great hybrids. And you can really play with the shape of the lobes when you mix them with other things. But there's a pretty good chance that you get at least a very wide sinused plant out of the crosses. And sort of the companion plant to that last one there is the Dorito port. So again, this is another NovDF hybrid. It's commonly called the NSE port. I am not sure when the distinction began. There's sort of two forms of the port. This is the one I think is a little bit wider, looks more like the NovDF. especially when it's mature. Whereas this one I think has a bit more of a unique shape, and it's a far like skinnier and very pointy lobes. So they're definitely different clones. And yeah, this one is now referred to as the Dorito port. It gets these absolutely fluorescent orange emergence that look like, you know, that like nacho cheese Doritos. Yeah, this guy is working on, I think this leaf was hardening when I got it. This leaf it put out in my care, and it's now working on its second leaf in my care. And it's rooted out beautifully in the chunky aeroid mix. I'm not sure. Let me spin it around. You can see the beautiful roots. So it's definitely been both quick to grow and root. It was thankfully came from a Canadian, so you know, didn't go through too much shock or anything. And the previous grower had it in a very similar tree fern mix to the one I'm using. So the plant really just took off, like nothing even happened when I gave it a repot, and it's been just a really good grower ever since. I think my plans for it are really just to make hybrids. This guy is at Cataphil. My experience with the Node DF, it usually takes a little bit after Cataphil to get going. Pretty excited. Okay, last but not least, we've got this guy here. I'm gonna actually keep what it is secret. It's pretty interesting, but I want you guys to do your best guesses in the comments down below what you think this species is. And like I said, it's not a hybrid, it is a species. Hold it up. It was water change day. Yeah. Let me know what you think it is down below. Too, I think it has some really, really incredible potential for hybrids, specifically with one plant. I think there is a lot of room to do some fun things with it, especially given the fact that it is a wild clone of this species. Yeah, so like I was saying, very, very excited to be working with this plant. I should hold the emerge. Okay, let me see. Yeah. This one came great roots from so I went straight into the chunky aeroid mix with the, you know, where I mixed the bark, the pon, and the tree fern fiber like I showed in my, you know, the how I grow video. Yeah. I think that about wraps up the sort of new plants that I've been growing behind the scenes and haven't had an opportunity to show in videos yet. Yeah, it's been a bit of a crazy spree. I feel like spring always is for houseplants. I feel like I worked out a bunch of trades and things all winter, and then now that the weather's been really good, it's been about making them happen. And, you know, getting your trades out and getting, you know, selling and cutting your own plants, and then using that money to get other plants. I think it's sort of that's been what spring and now rolling into summer has been, and what's been going on behind the scenes here. So I really appreciate you guys taking some time out of your day to watch this video. Have a really good one. Bye now.